Former Mavs owner Mark Cuban had a lot to say about the Luka Doncic trade and his current situation with the team, and it's not pretty. I'm Trevor Lane. This is the Basketball Bulletin, joined by Donnie Freeman. Donnie, you're wearing the right colors for this video. You got the Mavs blue on right now.
Yeah, I'm just in honor of Mark Cuban, Dallas Luka, all of it in honor.
Well, here's Mark Cuban on with Tom Segura talking about the whole situation, everything that went down, and his thoughts on it. And again, he pulls no punches here. I really like this. Here we go.
Idea.
Wait, is that for real?
No, I'm lying.
But like, it's beyond.
If I had any influence, yeah.
But just to lay things out for people who might not know, because literally the last time I saw you, I think it was about fresh news that you had sold your majority shares in the Mavericks,
in the Mavs, yeah.
And you're like, it's a great situation where I sold the team, but I still have operational control.
Basketball, yeah, that was the mission.
But what part of basketball do you control, and what do you not?
I don't
control?
Anymore, and I haven't for a while.
So you relinquished all of it.
I didn't relinquish. They kind of
muscled it out of you.
Yeah, I wouldn't say muscled, but the majority owner, Patrick Dumont, decided that he was comfortable with Nico Harrison, the general manager, and the team he had put together, which is his choice.
His choice.
I mean, and you can't totally argue with him because we went to the finals.
Yes.
Now I could tell you, but yeah, it was his choice, and he made his choice.
I really want to know what the stuff is.
Yeah.
And later on, he kind of like gets into some things here, but yeah, you could tell Cuban's not happy that the arrangement's not working out as they had planned.
Yeah, he's also trying not to say a lot of things. So,
yeah.
It's weird because I remember that when he sold his stake, that was the next line was that but he would still be heavily involved with the team.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting to know that they basically forced him out.
Now that's not the case, and now look where they are, as he's going to say here.
And so I'm just a fan now.
You were in the position of having some.
That was when I originally sold the team. That originally was what was supposed to happen.
Okay.
And then over time, and initially it was, and then over time it was like, okay, and Nico we trust, and so here we are.
So I have
in Nico we trust, and so here we are.
Wow.
I can only imagine what Cuban is saying when they're not on camera, right? When they're just kind of talking amongst themselves. Then what does that sound like? Because clearly he says this isn't how it was supposed to be. This is not what we agreed to. And now it's in Nico we trust, and here we are. You could tell he is not happy with the situation.
I'd be pretty pissed off too, though, personally, if I thought that we had an agreement to something, and once I'm out of the picture and you have more power than me, you decide to just completely remove me, which wasn't the agreement we had. But I guess if that's the case, if you're Mark, this as somebody that's a businessman, you've got to get that stuff in writing, and apparently he didn't.
Well, and this is the risk that you're taking too when you're selling the team, because essentially Cuban was going to get to have his cake and eat it too. He was going to get to cash out on the team, get a big chunk of change. We're talking billions that he was going to get. Plus, he was still going to get to control the team. So he was going to get to be involved in the team, that they did the day-to-day operations and all that. He was going to get to be involved in the decision-making process. So still retain the power and cash out and no longer have the downside risk in case something happens with the Mavs or anything like that. Get to take that big lump of money and do something with that. And so he was going to get to do both. It was a perfect deal for him, but this was the risk that he was taking, that what if they change that? What if they change my involvement at some point? Whereas if I just retain ownership of the team, nobody can change my involvement to the team because I own the damn thing. So this was the risk that he took, but he's got to be a little frustrated, because I would imagine, like, what would have happened had they told him, we'll give you the money, but you're gone. You have no more say. Would he have still done the deal? I would be really curious to know that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a lot of money just to turn down.
Sure.
So like, it's not like I feel bad for him or anything like that, of course. But I do wonder, just because how passionate he is about the team and the way it's been run, and how outspoken he's been as the owner of the team since he's been. I do wonder if he would have still did the deal if he thought that he would have been forced out. He probably thought that this was going to be a situation where Dumont and his crew is buying the team, but they're not going to be really involved in it. They're going to probably leave the day-to-day to other people, including him, but they were just going to be the majority owner funding the checks and stuff like that, because that is kind of a common thing where it seems like these ownership groups are just buying these teams just as an investment. They're not really getting fully involved into it to the degree that somebody like Steve Ballmer, who's in love with his team, he didn't have to be. It could have just been a plaything for him. I mean, it probably is because he just makes so much money. But so I wonder if he thought that was going to be the case here because of the situation.
Well, and if it is just seen as an investment, it's a worthwhile. If you've seen the valuation of NBA teams lately, like it's an incredible investment compared to what you bought. I mean, he sold it for what, billions? And I want to say, let me look it up real quick. What he purchased, I want to say it was like 300 million or something.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
the return on investment is nuts.
Right, right. So absolutely insane. Oh, even better. Bought it for 285 million.
That's crazy.
Bought it for 285 million. And then what was the sale price? He still has an ownership stake.
A minor owner stake.
Minor ownership
even if
stake.
He made $1 billion off that.
3.5 billion.
I mean, come on. That's
3.5 billion. That's a
lot of money.
That is a dream, like once in a life, like, and I'm talking about even when we get into normal person money, like that is an insane rate of return to get that over a 20-year period. Oh my God. Like he cleaned, and that's why it doesn't surprise me if there's groups that say, hey, I just want to invest in a sports franchise. You guys make the decisions and all that. I don't really care about sports. I'm parking my money here for a little while because I know what it's going to do.
It's extremely lucrative. Like, sure. I mean, we just explained what he did as an owner for what, like 20 years, something like that.
Yeah.
Like I mean, damn, that's nuts. I didn't think it was that big of a jump, man. That's crazy. So yeah, I wonder if he thought that was going to be the case.
So now he's going to get into the Luka trade, though. Oh boy, I
have to imagine that of course, we're talking about Luka being traded, which was, I think, in like we're not, similar-ish in like the biggest trade in American sports that I remember Herschel Walker being traded. Remember that when you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
it was crazy.
That turned around the Cowboys. It was great.
Yeah, but like, I imagine your phone blew up a lot.
Well, I was in Florida at a conference, and I don't know, 11 at night, or whatever it was.
Yeah, it was late.
Yeah, and I get a text, and it was from our general manager, and I thought he was asking me what I thought, and then I realized very quickly he was telling me what happened. And I told him I didn't agree with it and and various reasons, but it wasn't my decision to make.
Wow.
Yeah.
And for people on the outside, I know people.
So again, it's not his decision to make, but his phone's blowing up and people are asking his opinion. But very clearly, he would not have done the trade.
Oh no! I mean, he famously said that he would rather give up his wife than trade Luka a couple years ago. So I'm not surprised. He also commented recently that I wonder how his wife feels about that.
Yeah, but I was just gonna say, I wonder if his wife is over that.
Yeah, I said that out loud, and I was like,
No, you were thinking the same. You were probably thinking the same thing I was, because in my head I'm thinking, oh, I would be in so much trouble.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like thinking, like, wait a minute, what? Man, my wife would get
my wife would be pissed.
She would never let me live it down.
No, never.
I wonder if he was able to talk his way out of that with all the billions he has.
That's why he sold the team, so he could spend the money on his wife to apologize.
Right, absolutely. I said it out loud. I was like, wait a minute. But yeah, he did say that once upon a time, as crazy as it is, and I believe that he probably was probably halfway telling the truth. There's always a little bit of truth in every joke, right?
Sure.
So I do think that he wouldn't have done it. I don't know that he would have traded Luka, period. But he already said a couple weeks ago when he first talked about this that if he was going to do this deal, he would have wanted to shop Luka for one. And then if he would have wound up doing this same deal, he would have wanted everything.
Yeah.
And that's the craziest part about it. Like, it's crazy in and of itself that Luka is traded, but it's crazier that they didn't walk away with all the Lakers assets. There's no reason the Lakers should have a pick and a pick swap to then try to turn around and put. And Austin, absolutely. There's no reason they should have these things to then try to put into a Mark Williams trade. That shouldn't have even have been a possibility. So
right, exactly. And you know what's funny, Donnie, isn't this the same reason why Mark Cuban and Dan Gilbert with the Cavs and all these owners got so upset about the Chris Paul trade? Because the Lakers weren't giving everything, because they were actually saving money on the deal and they would still have assets to flip into Dwight Howard. That's why they were really pissed off. It wasn't just that the Lakers were getting Chris Paul, and there's a ton of context around that we're not going to get into here, but it was also that they were setting up the next move for them. And then here, Mark Cuban's team trades Luka to the Lakers and leaves them with the assets to make whatever their next move in the future is going to be.
Absurd. And the way that I've typically talked about that is Anthony Davis. I would value Anthony Davis at least as a few firsts, but you get the sure thing in that you don't have to worry about him to develop, or is he going to be XYZ, etc. Where's that pick going to land? You get Anthony freaking Davis. That's awesome. But even with that being the case, regardless of injury concerns, because Luka's not always healthy either, they're both players that have missed a lot of time or have missed time. But regardless of that, regardless of age, I just don't think that was enough. That's what makes it crazy to me. Yeah. And that's the way I've typically just talked about it, is Anthony Davis, I think, is underrated as a piece in that. And I think Max, if they redraft that draft, is probably a lottery pick or around there.
Or so close to it, yeah.
Or close. Like, yeah, he's a top 20 pick. And he's only 21. So that's another first round pick. That's a sure thing right there. So like, that's something you have to consider, and that's context that matters. But still, there's no reason that the Lakers should have been able to walk away with everything. And I'm not even mad at it. But if you're the Mavs, that shouldn't have happened.
And that's what Cuban is saying. Right. That's what Cuban is saying. Like, hey, there's no way in hell, like, I'm walking away from this deal without getting everything. Because remember, it was the Lakers who were able to tell the Mavs, like, well, you guys want to keep this quiet, and so we can't talk to Luka. So if we can't talk to Luka, we can't know that he's going to sign an extension.
And there is still that risk.
So we got to pull an extra first-round pick off the table, and we got to remove that. There's so much risk. Cuban would have said, F you guys. No, I'm not falling for that. Nico Harris went, oh yeah, that sounds sounds reasonable.
Luka's not even disgruntled. That's the crazy thing about it. He didn't want to leave.
He just bought a house.
Why would you? He's not even angry, wanting to leave or anything. You're just trading him because you want to.
Yeah.
And then you try to justify it a billion different ways with all these different reasons. But at the end of the day, there's no reason to trade a 25-year-old generational superstar.
No, it didn't make much sense from the Mavs, which is why now we have these conspiracy theories about, the NBA did this. Because I don't know if you've seen, ratings are now actually not back up to normal, but they're actually better than they were.
Yeah. You take a generational international superstar like Luka and put him on the Lakers, he might have been able to become the face of the league anyway in Dallas, but he is absolutely going to be in LA. It's just going to happen because they're going to market the hell out of Luka in LA. Oh my God. And then on top of that, there's the conspiracies of them trying to tank the team, move it, and all these other things. So,
well, here, let's get the remainder of Mark Cuban's thoughts, because he's got more to say here. Oh, he's got more to say on this.
A lot of people in Dallas, it was pretty well reported, were very upset.
Oh yeah, my family, my daughter was at a party and had to hide.
Really?
When it came out. Oh yeah, and still, like, I was here at South by Southwest. I was at the premiere of The Accountant 2, great movie, by the way. And somebody started yelling, "Fire Nico!"
Wow.
But it's just, it's like the new "Let's Go Brandon."
yeah, exactly. But this is like, it's so insane to people that when you have, Luka's a legit, like, generational talent.
You don't have to convince me.
But it's
yeah. I don't get it either.
You don't get it either.
No.
And it is one of these things that, as people have said early on, like, time will tell. Like,
that's the way all trades work.
Yeah.
Look, 2004, I let Steve Nash walk, and he won 2 MVPs the next 2 years. But the good news was he beat us in the playoffs the first year after he left. And then we made it to the finals and won a championship. So it kind of covered all that.
Is it hard being in that position to go, this guy, you like the guy, you go, this is a skilled guy, but you have to look at a team's needs. And
yeah,
sometimes
it is,
it's
right?
a
Because
skill
you
set.
develop personal relationships, you
Yeah.
know, with them. And like, I love Luka, right? You know, we weren't best buddies, but I would text him all the time and DM him and, you know, try to, you know, I would give him all these motivational quotes, even gave him books to read and
Mhm.
stuff to read, you know. And so we had a good relationship, got along great with his dad. I mean, I was just as dumbfounded as everybody else.
So clearly, Cuban not a fan of the move, saying now his daughter had to hide because when the trade went down, she had people after her at a party wanted to know why this whole thing had happened. He does add in the bit about Steve Nash and trading Steve Nash, and then Steve Nash went on to win multiple MVPs. That was tough for the Mavs, obviously. And right now, the Mavs are in a similar situation, right? Everybody they've traded away, whether it's Quentin Grimes or Luka, is doing good things, and the Mavs, meanwhile, seem to be just, I mean, absolutely imploding. The only way the Mavs come out looking good here is if, well, I suppose if Luka has long-term issues and is not able to stay healthy, then the people go, oh, maybe the Mavs knew. But the biggest thing would be if they could win. They win a championship next year. Obviously, it's not happening this year. They're not even in the play-in right now. But they win a championship, say next year. Let's say Kyrie comes back. He heals up really quickly. He becomes like Wolverine. A healing factor kicks in. And Kyrie comes back and they win a title next year. Okay. Then everybody's going to say, hey, we got a title out of it. You know, the Mavs, they traded Steve Nash, but they won a title. So that kind of, it eased that decision, the criticism of that decision. You could point to, well, we won a title. So banners hang forever. Yeah, maybe we didn't get best value or whatever. And he went on to great things, but we won a title. That's the only way to save this for Dallas.
Yeah, I agree with you. The downside is that they are constructing that team around older guys, and they don't have that big of a window. It would have been one thing if AD was a couple years younger and they had a couple more years on that window. Kyrie was a couple years younger, and who knows how things look for Kyrie when he comes back. Probably going to miss at least half the season next year already. Who knows how things look for him, how long he takes to ramp up, and if they're truly able to gel and compete at that point. I don't really know. But the thing is that the weird thing about it is that like it's a win now move, but I think you would have had a better chance winning now with Luka.
It's a win now move, but your team owner says it's a
long-term
it's a
move.
future move. It's a future move. That's what,
it's very clearly not a future move.
It's very clearly not. And your team owner,
maybe
that's concerning in and of itself. The only way it's a future move is if they just say, look, we didn't want to give Luka Supermax, and that's the future piece of it. But even then,
it's a future move because the future of the team is not in Dallas.
Yeah. And I think you're right when you say the future of the team is not in Dallas. What do you mean? Do you mean Luka was the future and he took it to LA, or do you mean the future of the team is in Las Vegas because they're moving the team?
Exactly.
Oh no.
I mean, both can be true, right? Like
both could be true. Oh man.
It's all pretty crazy, but no, it's absolutely not a long-term move in any serious means, unless you're trying to rebuild. I guess you don't even have the assets for that. So I don't.
You've got your first for 2 more years, and then they're all encumbered. Yeah, this year and then next year.
Yeah, they made a weird decision on a money thing with Grimes because Grimes was due an extension.
Yeah,
I don't know otherwise why they would trade him. They probably should have just locked him up, but they probably are just being pretty stingy because that's the main reason they decided to get off of Luka is they didn't think he was worth that. And the unfortunate reality is, and I didn't expect it to hit Luka, but I wouldn't be surprised if it hit somebody like Ja. The unfortunate reality is that teams are going to be faced with that question. Is this guy worth $350 million?
Here's the problem. If Luka freaking Doncic is not worth
it,
who the hell is?
Right.
Who is? Like he's a top 3, what at worst top 4 player in the NBA?
Yeah.
So who is worth it then? If you're not going to, I get it. If it's like, Jaren Jackson Jr., do we want to Supermax him or not? Even if we want to say like Karl Anthony Towns, is he worth? Okay, this is Luka. Like if that's not worth it, who is worth the Supermax then? And that's why I think this is going to be more of an outlier move. I think the true Supermax guys will still get it. I do think you're right, though. I think some of these guys who are more kind of like fringe guys, maybe the teams will balk at giving them the Supermax, a la Boogie Cousins back in the day. Maybe that'll happen. But, man, this is This is still wild. I know it's been a little bit since the trade, but hearing Cuban talk about it, like, it's pretty clear. And I think most people would agree with him. The Mavs did not get enough. They did not take enough from the Lakers in this deal. They've set the Lakers up for potentially their next move with what they did. And you can feel the frustration from Cuban, because there's no way in hell he would have done this deal. But as he said, in Nico we trust, and the only way that it looks good for Nico now is if they win a championship. And that's it.
I agree. I think that they should have tried to get more from the Lakers, but the unfortunate reality also with getting more picks and stuff like that from the Lakers is that and this is where the Jazz are the big loser in all of this, is that these picks that the Lakers have are now presumably going to be pretty bad for the next
less
10
valuable.
years.
Sure.
They're going to be bad picks. And those picks that people were trying to, line up to get post LeBron, all of a sudden, assuming Luka stays, there is that risk still, are not going to be good picks. So even the pick that you got, if you're Dallas, is garbage.
We need footage, something. Someone must have had a camera when Danny Ainge found out that the trade that he was the third team in, because he didn't know till like 30 minutes before the trade.
Right.
When he found out that the trade that he was in a third team in was sending Luka to the Lakers when they've got the Lakers 2027 first round pick. Somebody needed to capture that. At some point that needs to be released. That needs to be made public, because that would be an all-time epic, like, instant regret moment on the part of Danny Ainge.
Yeah. So wait, so the Hawks have the pick this year. The Lakers have the 6th pick, and they've got the Jazz have the 27. For the
Lakers, the Hawks have their pick this year. The Lakers have their own 2026 pick. The Jazz have their 2027 pick. The Mavs have the Lakers 2029 pick.
Okay. Yeah, that's the pick they got in this deal, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
3-4 years from now, I don't.
So Luka will be like, Luka will be like 29, 30. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be good.
Probably
So,
not.
that's also where it's like really not enough if that pick isn't even good.
Absolutely. Well, clearly Mark Cuban not thrilled with the situation. And it's interesting. He's not clearly he's not happy with what happened with the Mavs too, with him losing control of all, especially when you lose control and then a short time after this happens and you're like, oh my God, I would have stopped this, right?
Yeah, he needs to stage a coup.
Apparently an uprising, yeah. A little mutiny on the Mavericks. There we go. We found it. All right, everybody, give us your thoughts in the comment section down below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Go check out the video I did a little earlier today about Steph Curry. Breaking news about his injury. We did a deep dive on the Warriors' schedule and what this could mean for the standings in the Western Conference. Can change a lot in the West now that Steph Curry, unfortunately, is dealing with an injury. So go check that out right now.